Maybe you could bring your family together instead of having them be the hateful, spiteful, neurotic, infighting batch that you're like doomed to spend Christmas with.
What happens when you put an egg into boiling water? And people reply, it hardens. The inside hardens. And she says, what happens when you put a carrot into boiling water? It softens. And then she says, what happens when you put a coffee bean into boiling water? And they say, it changes the water. It causes it to seep into the water and it becomes coffee. And she said, okay, well, be the coffee bean. Meaning, be the part that changes the environment. Be the type of person who causes change in the water around you, and not the person who is changed by the circumstance, the person who becomes soft like the carrot or hard like the egg. Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Alexis, for anybody who doesn't know. Welcome if you're new, or welcome back if you have been here before. I am the author of A Journey into Truth, Unveiling Life's Secrets for Truth Seekers, and this book talks all about the last 6 years of my life, the adventures I've been on, like going into the jungle, meeting shamans, doing ayahuasca, meeting monks, all kinds of things. It also talks about some of the life philosophies and lessons I've learned along my path and my journey in life. So if you're interested in learning more about that book, you can always visit my website, www.vibratecreate.com, or you can find me on Instagram at Vibrate to Create. Here on Vibrate to Create, I talk about all things spiritual and metaphysical. I also talk about my own personal life experiences, the awarenesses and life philosophies I've come to because of those experiences. I make reaction videos to things like spiritual teachers, spiritual teachings, inspirational, motivational, and sometimes funny videos. And sometimes I also make entrepreneurial videos letting you guys know how to self-publish your own books. So if you're interested in that kind of content, then click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to be notified of when I post new videos so you never miss a video. Today, we're going to be reacting to someone who I have reacted to in the past, and that is Jordan Peterson. And I will place up here in the link, is it here? I don't know. But I'll place the last one that I did to Jordan Peterson. And today, I don't know exactly which video I'll be doing, but I know I wanted to react to Jordan Peterson once more. Maybe more times in the future, I don't know. But today, I feel like reacting to him. I've been watching him quite a bit lately. So this one says, Jordan Peterson, his finest moments.
It's like, yes, true. Okay, but the problem is that it is true. And so if you take the oppressed, you have to fractionate them. It's like, you're a woman. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm a black woman. Well, I'm a black woman who has 2 children. Well, I'm a black woman who has 2 children, and one of them isn't very healthy. And then, well, I'm a Hispanic woman, and I have a genius son who doesn't have any money so that he can't go to university. And, you know, I had a hell of a time getting across the border. It was really hard on me to get my citizenship. My husband is an alcoholic brute. It's like, well, yeah, that sucks too. And so, well, so let's fix all your oppression. And we'll take every single thing into account, and then we'll fix yours too. We'll take every single thing into account. It's like, no, you won't, because you can't. You can't. It is technically
I want to
impossible.
Jump in here for just a second, because I'm thinking about a quote from my book that I added. And it talks about a parable that someone has told me before. And I think it was also in the movie The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. And basically what it says is, there's a man and he's drowning in the sea or in some kind of flood. So he's drowning and he's begging, God, please save me, please save me. And he's just sitting there drowning, and people come by and they're like they're on a boat, and they say, do you need to be saved? Like, we can save you. And then, like, get on the boat. And then the guy goes, no, I'm waiting for God. God's gonna save me. And so they say, all right, well, we're leaving. So they leave, and this guy stays there, and he's just drowning. And he's like, where's God? God, save me. And there's like a helicopter, and he comes by, and he's like, do you need to be saved? We're saving people. And the guy goes, no, God's gonna save me. And so the helicopter leaves, and this guy, he ends up eventually drowning, and he dies in the flood. And so he goes up to heaven, and he says, God, I begged you to save me. Like, I was waiting there. I had faith. I was waiting. Where are you, God? And why didn't you save me? And so God says, I sent you 2 lifeboats, I sent you a helicopter, like I sent you all these people, and you decided not to take the help, not to take the choice to save yourself by making the decision to get on the boat, making the decision to take the helicopter ride, not choosing to help save yourself when you had the opportunities, the choices to make. And I think this is a very important key factor in my spiritual journey, or in my life's journey. Don't even like to use the word spiritual, really. But in my life's journey was the moment that I decided, okay, I'm going to figure out how to help myself, how to save myself, how to learn new techniques, new ways of mastering the mind, new ways of seeing things, techniques like meditation, techniques like going and learning things about psychology, or what is hypnosis. So really diving into my own healing journey, diving into, okay, I'm going to take the choice to get on the boat. I'm going to take the choice to help save myself, because nobody can save you. Nobody, even if you, like, the whole world really wanted to. Like, I myself feel very empathetic to people who are going through really tough struggles. But from what I've learned in my family constellations trainings, and learning about trauma, and learning about coping mechanisms and victimization and feeling like a victim, and how this state is not helpful when someone is in that state of victimhood, it is not helpful to jump in and save them. That's actually more about ourselves and our own coping mechanisms when we decide, okay, I'm gonna go save you. It's more like, I'm gonna go find somebody to love me because I'll save them. And this dynamic is very unhealthy because it doesn't help people to help themselves. There's another quote that talks about how you have to teach people how to fish, not give them the fish, because sure, you feed them for a day, and when they have that one day of fish, they'll be really happy, really full, feeling good. But in the moment the next day comes, they'll come back to you and say, hey, give me some more fish. And if you say no, they'll be really mad because now they have no fish. Now they don't understand how to go fish. But if you help them learn, this is what you do, this is how you do it, and now go off and do it yourself. In the moment that you give them that opportunity, you help them to help themselves, in that moment is where you cause actual change in somebody's life. And sometimes the best thing that you could do is to not help save somebody, or to not ask somebody to save you. And this has happened in my life many times before, but really put your big girl panties on and be like, all right, I'm gonna figure it out. And if I need help, I'll ask for help. Sometimes that's also the hardest thing to do in life, is to put your pride down and say, hey, I need help. Because we're all humans and we need other people. And we need like human connection, or sometimes we need a leg up. But also being aware of, okay, I'm going to take the choice to help myself. I think that is where real change causes. Real change can happen in our lives and in who we become, because none of us wants to be fully dependent on somebody else, and that causes a lot of resentment if you make somebody do for you what you decide not to do for yourself. Let's keep watching. Hopefully that made some sense.
I read a lot about the terrible things that people have done to each other. You just cannot even imagine it. It's so awful. So you don't want to be someone like that. Now, do you have a reason to be? Yes. You have lots of reasons to be. God, there's reasons to be resentful about your existence. Everyone you know is going to die. You know, you too. And there's going to be a fair bit of pain along the way. And lots of it's going to be unfair. It's like, yeah, no wonder you're resentful. It's like, act it out and see what happens. You make everything you're complaining about infinitely worse. There's this idea that hell is a bottomless pit, and that's because no matter how bad it is, some stupid son of a bitch like you could figure out a way to make it a lot worse. So you think, well, what do you do about that? Well, you accept it. That's what life is like. It's suffering. That's what the religious people have always said. Life is suffering. Yes. Well, who wants to admit that? Well, just think about it. Well, so what do you do in the face of that suffering? Try to reduce it. Start with yourself. What good are you? Get yourself together for Christ's sake, so that when your father dies, you're not whining away in a corner, and you can help plan the funeral, and you can stand up solidly so that people can rely on you. That's better. Don't be a damn victim. Of course you're a victim.
In my book, I talk about victims and villains, and I begin that chapter with the Joker character, the new Joaquin Phoenix version of the Joker. And my teacher for family constellations has talked about how victims and villains they can be very much like two sides of the same coin. She says villains can be more like outwardly violent, outwardly hurtful, that's a good word, outwardly hurtful, and victims can be more like this energy of come, like it's this, at least with the villains you can see outwardly what the intentions are, who they are, but the victims can be very like, oh, come get me, it's this underlaying aggressiveness of like, come get me. And sometimes that can be very hard pill to swallow, but if you are ever in contact with the victim, let me tell you another story from my book. So, okay, let's start here. So, in my book, I have this little subheading called Punishment Out of Pain, and in this scenario, I was being seen as the villain, and someone was putting themselves in the victim position, and it was like not even my fault, but I was being like pulled into her scenario of her perspective of what she was seeing it as. And in this scenario, I was trying to help her check out some things she wanted to buy at the store I was working at during Christmas time. So in this scenario, she was like telling me, oh, I really want to find something, like some kind of gift, and if you could help me choose. And it was like this really nice encounter. We were talking, we were explaining, and then when we went to check out, she gave me a gift card for the whole mall. And I tried to put it into our system. We were an independent business, like a small little booth apart from the mall. And so I tried to swipe it into our system. It wasn't working, and so I told her, it's not working, do you have another form of payment? And at this point she was a little irritated, and she was like, no, I'm gonna use that gift card, like that's what I have, that's what I can use, like I'm not using something else. And I told her, okay, I'll try and figure out if I can use it. And as I kept trying, it wasn't working, so I called the mall management, I asked them about it, and they told me it doesn't work for independent businesses, it has to be within the mall. And I was like, okay, so I relayed that information. I told her I can't take this form of payment because we're separate, like we have our own system of taking things in, we're not a part of the mall. And immediately she got so like flared up and like rage, and she was so angry, and she was like yelling at me, and she said, oh, I'm gonna talk to your manager, I'm gonna like get you fired. And like she was telling me about all these things that were happening in her life, and how someone was, you know, about to, I'm not even gonna go into that information, but I felt genuinely empathetic, and I was like, I'm really sorry those things are happening in your life, and if I could fix the situation, if I could change anything for you, I absolutely would, but I have zero power in this situation. I don't know what to tell you, like it's not my fault, and I just work here. I'm not the owner of the business. I can't take the mall's, you know, payment. And so she, you know, she was so angry, and she just sat there screaming at me, and I just stood there and waited for her to kind of move through that emotion, move through that feeling. And then eventually she had to just kind of give up and walk away, and she didn't buy anything. And in this situation, that's the victim energy trying to incite, like, come get me, creating a villain out of somebody else. And we have to be very careful with ourselves, and I find it even in myself sometimes that I can fall into that kind of victimhood, or like, oh, the world's against me, or oh, that guy did that thing to me. But we have to be very aware of ourselves to understand there are two sides of the same coin. The villain and the victim can be very similar in very different ways. The villain is more outwardly violent, more outwardly, hurtful or loud, or more apparent that it seems not good, but the victim can be very much underlyingly where you can't see, like it's like this come at you from the bottom and then pull your feet out. And then the villain is more like, oh, I'll just come at you so you can see me. So at least you can see the villain. But sometimes the victim is like, pull you and you don't even know what's coming, man. But yeah, it's very important to not fall into this victimhood, because it's not a good place to be in life. Not a good place to be in life. All right, let's keep going. That was kind of long-winded. All right.
That you might even be able to manage in your insufficient present condition. And so you might shine yourself up a little bit, and then your eyes will be a little more open, and then you can shine yourself up a little bit more, and then maybe you could bring your family together instead of having them be the hateful, spiteful, neurotic, infighting batch that you're like doomed to spend Christmas with.
One of the spiritual teachers said, what was the exact quote? He said, if you think you're enlightened, then go spend the Christmas or go spend the holidays with your families and come back to me. Or something like that.
Because, God, you're a fixer-upper if there ever was one. And then you got to figure out, well, can you figure out how to make peace with your idiot brother? And probably not, because he's just as dumb as you, so how the hell are you going to manage that? And so then maybe you get somewhere that way, and your family's sort of functioning, and you find out, well, that kind of relieved a little bit of suffering, although it reduced the opportunities for spiteful revenge, and that's kind of a pain in the neck. And so then you get your family together a little bit, and you're a little clued in then, at least a bit, because you've done something difficult that's actually difficult. You're a little wiser, and so then maybe you could put a tentative finger out beyond the family and try to change some little thing without wrecking it. It's like, our society is complex, and we teach our students that they could just fix it. It's like, go fix a military helicopter and see how far you get with that. It's like, what are you going to do? You're like a chimp with a wrench. Whack! Oh, look, it's better. It's like, no, it's not better. Things are complicated, and to fix things is really hard. And you have to be like a golden tool.
So many moving parts.
And you're not. So, and that's the other message of the West. It's like, how do you overcome the suffering of life? And I'm not saying it's only the message of the West. How do you overcome the suffering of life? Is be a better person. That's how you do it. Well, that's hard. It takes...
One of my teachers, she tells this story. She says, what happens when you put an egg into boiling water? And people reply, it hardens. The inside hardens. And she says, what happens when you put a carrot into boiling water? It softens. And then she says, what happens when you put a coffee bean into boiling water? And they say, it changes the water. It causes it to seep into the water and it becomes coffee. And she said, okay, well, be the coffee bean. Meaning, be the part that changes the environment. Be the type of person who causes change in the water around you, and not the person who is changed by the circumstance, the person who becomes soft like the carrot or hard like the egg. But really, it's easier said than done. But this came up because this person was like, well, I really want to move because I don't like it here. I don't like how the people treat you. I don't like how this happens. I don't like these people. And she said, well, be the coffee bean. Be the one who talks first. Be the one who changes your environment. Be the coffee bean. Be the coffee bean. And this is kind of what he's talking about, is to be the coffee bean in life and to change the circumstances to the best of your ability, and to do your best to be the best person you can and cause the best outcomes in the world. Even though life is so hard, even though there's all these, things like grief and losing people, becoming sick, losing a home, losing your job, things can always be seen as good or bad, and sometimes fantastic things come out of really hard circumstances, and sometimes horrible things come from things that we see as traditionally good, such as I won the lottery. People think, oh, that would be so good, I'd love that so much, and then people win the lottery and they're like, crap, now everyone's after me, people are trying to take my money, or people are trying to come after me because now they know I have all this money, and now I don't know who I can trust, and now I don't know if people even really like me for me, and these things that we see as, oh, that's good, and then eventually it turns, oh, nope, it's bad. And then people are like, oh no, it's bad. And then they're like, oh no, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like when you have a breakup, you're like, oh, that was horrible. And then you meet someone who's even better, and you're like, oh, I'm so happy that didn't work out. I'm so happy. So just keep an equanimity in life of maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. Maybe this is going to lead me to change my life in some way. Maybe losing my home is going to help me find a career path that I love even more, and I'm going to start making much more than I was making before I lost my home. Maybe, really keeping that level-headedness of like, maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe it's not a bad thing. Okay, let's keep going.
Responsibility. And I think, if you said to someone, you want to have a meaningful life, everything you do matters. That's the definition of a meaningful life. But everything you do matters. So you're going to have to carry that with you. Or do you want to just forget about the whole meaning thing, and then you don't have any responsibility because who the hell cares, and you can wander through life doing whatever you want, gratifying impulsive desires for how useful that's going to be, and you're stuck in meaninglessness, but you don't have any responsibility. Which one do you want? Well, ask yourself, which one are you pursuing? And you'll find very rapidly that it isn't the majority of your soul that's pursuing the whole meaning thing, because, well, look what you have to do that. You have to take on the fact that life is suffering. You have to put yourself together in the face of that. Well, that's hard. Christ, it's amazing people can even do it. I'm stunned every day when I go outside, and it isn't a riot with everything burning. Because really, God, you talk to people, it's like, I knew this guy, he'd been in a motorcycle accident and it really ruined him, and he was like a linesman, working on the power, and he was working with someone who had Parkinson's disease, and they had complementary inadequacies, and so two of them could do the job of one person, and so they're out there fixing power lines in the freezing cold, despite the fact that one was 3/4 wrecked with a motorcycle accident and the other one had Parkinson's. It's like, that's how our civilization works. It's like there's all these ruined people out there, they've got problems like you can't believe. Off they go to work and do things they don't even like, and look, the lights are on. My God, it's unbelievable. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And we're so ungrateful. College students, the postmodern types, they're so ungrateful. They don't know that they're surrounded by just a bloody miracle. It's a miracle that all this stuff works, that all you crazy chimpanzees that don't know each other can sit in the same room for 2 hours sweltering away without tearing each other apart, because that's what chimps do. So, anyways, so what happened? Well, I made some videos, and I got to the bottom of some things, at least as far as I can tell, so I told you what the bottom is, and then I got this idea about what you might do about it, which isn't my idea. It's not my idea. It's an old idea. It's far older than Christianity. It's old. It's the oldest story of mankind. Get yourself together. Transcend your suffering. See if you can be some kind of hero. Make the suffering in the world less. Well, that's the way forward, as far as I can tell, if there is any way forward.
Yeah, so, yes, life is hard. Life is hard. Dealing with changes and losing people, breakups, dating, oh my gosh. Traumas in childhood. We were all born into a world that was not perfect, that sometimes was violent, that sometimes seemingly was not for our good. And what came up for me was the lotus. What came up for me was the lotus symbolism of you come from mud and you move your way up towards the top of the water and you become this beautiful flower and you bloom and you become better because of the environment where you came from. And I really believe that it's possible to turn something extremely horrible into something very beautiful. And I think that is, in my eyes, can be a huge purpose in life and the huge meaning of why you wake up every day, or why you decide to make videos like this, or why you decide to take the journey to publish a book, or to follow your dreams, to go learn how to be an actor and become an actor if that's what you feel like in your heart you think you want. And also realize even that won't come with all of the best parts of life, because everything is always changing, always growing, always becoming more, and you're always growing, you're always becoming more than what you are, and you're always changing. And there's an idea about wabi-sabi in my book where I talk about the beauty of transience, the beauty of changing, the beauty of weathering and growing. My card was full, so I had to go delete some things. But just back to that point, is to look for the good in the situation. Look for what could be coming out of it. And even when you're deep in those trenches, sit in them. Just sit in them and find solace in knowing that the sun is going to come back eventually. And that we can make it better by deciding to make a different choice, by deciding to do something a little bit differently. My teacher says, if nothing changes, then nothing changes. If you don't change something, nothing is going to change in your life. And that could mean emotional changes, meaning I decide today I'm not going to be seeing myself as a victim anymore, and I decide I'm going to take life into my own hands, and I'm going to do something about my life and change my life for the better for as long as I possibly can. And then when life is finished with me, then I'll rest and, but I want to make this life a life worth living, a life where I decided I did everything I wanted to do. I went and saw France. I went and did the things on my bucket list. And I have a friend who doesn't like to use the mileage on her car, but I'm so much of like a, just live, man. Just live, because these are the days where you can drive your car. These are the days where you can see the world. See the world, guys. See the world. Do things. There's a metaphor I think someone once said. I forget where it was from, but they said that they used to never use their candles. They used to never light them because they never wanted them to run out. But what is the point of that? What is the point? You got a candle that you never use, and then you grow old and you still got a bunch of candles you've never used because you liked the way they smelled too much. But enjoy the moment. Enjoy it for the moment for as long as you have it, and then buy a new candle. Find a new scent you like. Be the coffee bean. Alright, I'm gonna leave this video here with this one. I think I'm gonna be filming another one after this. But it was so nice. I enjoyed this moment with you all, and with Jordan Peterson and his teachings, and how he was so... I learned recently that he was just filming his lectures for, I don't even know how long, just years, and then eventually because of one incident it all kind of went viral. But he had been putting them up just because he wanted to put them on YouTube. Like, he didn't know too much about YouTube, and he was like, oh, I'll just put it up there. I'll film it because I'm already doing these lectures. So I think that is so beautiful. Like, he caused so much change, and he didn't even know why he was putting those videos up there. But seemingly it had no purpose, but there was a much bigger purpose much later in his journey. Alright, I'll leave you guys there with that today. I hope you enjoyed Jordan Peterson's talk and my talk on top of it, and my awarenesses from what I've learned in life and my teachings and my teachers. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got something from it. I hope you decide to do something a little bit differently, even if it's just one tiny little step in your life. But thank you so much for joining me today. I am signing off for this specific video, and like I said, if you want to learn more about my book, you can visit my website. You can find me on Instagram at Vibrate to Create. Vibrate to Create. I kind of messed that up a little bit. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.